everyone, welcome back to another episode of Strip by Sia, your podcast for strippers, sex workers, and all the fancy naked people. I am your host, Steph Sia, aka Kimchi on stage. I am a digital content creator, a stripper, not former since I just danced recently, which is great, yay! A former sugar baby and person that does a lot of things on the internet. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. But I have someone that's even cooler than me on the show. Yes, you are cooler than me. I have brought Yana Petrova onto the show today to speak all about escorting. She is a really, really fucking cool escort here in Vancouver, Canada. So any clients listening, feel free to book her. She's amazing. And that is as much as I know about you. I know you were recommended by a former guest on the show from season 1, Karina Riviera, and I think you guys are like BFFs. Or like,
yeah, we're really good friends. She's such a sweetheart. I love her so much. She's great.
She is great, and she is the #1 episode on the show. #1.
For a good reason, I feel like. Of course she is.
She just provided a lot of insight, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say that I haven't had many escorts on the show. I've had just her and another one as well. But I would love to hear more about this side of sex work, and I'm sure the audience would like to hear more as well, just because it was such a popular episode. So thank you so much for joining me, Yana. Yay.
My pleasure. I'm very happy to help shed some more light and give you guys a peek into the world of escorting.
Yeah. So, like, I don't know a whole ton about you, but if you wanted to go into your own definition, your own introduction of who you are and what it is that you do, would you like to go ahead and do that?
Sure, yeah. So my name is Yana Petrova. I'm a Ukrainian escort here in Vancouver. So like you asked earlier, like Petro versus Petrova. Mm-hmm. Like in Ukrainian, the A at the end just signifies that I'm a woman. That's just feminine. So like that's kind of like Petrova is basically like of Peter saying, right?
Right.
But so I am originally from Toronto, and I moved out to the West Coast when I was 18. I've now been a escort for around 2 years, and it's been a blast. It's been a wild ride, a lot of ups, a lot of downs, but you know, that's the world we live in. Me personally, what I generally tend to offer is, I would say I'm more of a girlfriend experience escort, where I really focus on kind of a more intimate relationship. I really, rather than performing XYZ services, I really just want to kind of form a bond and hang out and just have a damn good time together. That's kind of what I'm all about.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like the girlfriend experience, whether it's with escorting or phone sex or something else, like I feel like that option is really, really popular. Really popular.
Oh, it definitely is. And I especially think that in a city like Vancouver, which I feel like culturally people love to talk about Vancouver like it's the best city in the world. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of people will admit that it is quite a lonely city. It's kind of a city that's really hard to make friends in. It's really hard to meet people. It's really hard to build connections. So I think it's really important to have people that are providing kind of safe spaces for people to come, de-stress, unload in, and just kind of feel that genuine human connection, the genuine human touch. That's what people really crave, I think.
Yeah, and especially in times like this with COVID, like not being allowed to socialize, not being allowed to see your friends and family, like that social aspect and also the human touch is so necessary. And again, like having sex workers to provide that is excellent.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So necessary.
We're social beings. We're social mammals. We're little primates that grew up in societies, and so we need friends, we need community, we need support around us, and I think it's really cool that I get to provide that in a pretty unique and special way.
Yeah, and a super hot sexual way too. Let's not forget about that.
Yeah, of course. That comes along with it, duh.
Which is super fun. But I want to know, since you have been doing this for the past 2 years, like how were you introduced to this line of work?
Okay. So how I got into this is I kind of had always thought or considered sex work, I suppose, like kind of peripherally in my life, because I've always, well, not always. When I was like a young teenager, I was super fucking weird and awkward and the opposite of hot. And then I feel like when I had my sexual awakening and I realized that I was a bad bitch and I was hot, I just really grew into my sexuality, and I've always been a slut, you know? I've always been a slut, and now I'm just a professional slut. That's all that's changed.
Yes.
But so sex work is something that I've really thought about for a long time, but never really been ready to take the plunge into. Also because it's kind of like this scary thing that like exists, but no one talks about it. You don't know how to start. You don't know what you're supposed to do, how to get into it. So it wasn't until I actually met a friend of mine through university who luckily enough, like I feel so blessed to have met such a wonderful, rad human being who was open about being a sex worker. And I started talking with her and I was like, oh, well, how does this work? And then she kind of started giving me some resources, referred me to a few different websites and places to look for some more information. And then it basically, well, the way that I ended up getting into it, once after I had discussed with her and she had given me these resources, I basically spent a year thinking about it. Mm-hmm. I spent a full year looking into it, kind of planning, kind of strategizing, figuring out what I'm comfortable with, how I would like to run things, where I'd like to end up. And then one day it was just kind of like, okay, that's it. Rip the Band-Aid off. It's time to just do it. I was really in a hard place when it comes like with my mental health and my physical health. University had really taken a huge toll on me, and I just wasn't happy financially or personally. Like I wasn't in a very good place. And I was like, well, you know what? I feel like now's the time. I need to change something. So let's try out this thing that I've been thinking about for the past year. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
So then I started in it, and the way that I started was definitely, I'm in a much different position now.
Okay.
From where I first started. When I first started, even given all of the research and everything I had done, I feel like right off the bat, I had a better understanding of branding and professionalism than many people might when they first start, because of all my research, all the research that I had done.
Yeah.
But I still had started in a place where I was like, there was other people making a lot of money off of me. Mm-hmm. You know, I wasn't seeing all the fruits of my labor, and I had other people dictating what my rates should be. Like, at the end of the day, it was up to me, but it was still, there was a lot of pressure of like, oh, you need to lower your rates. Oh, you need to do this. So like it was presented to me originally as a very open and friendly environment. But after being there for a few months, I had learned that wasn't what was actually up. Okay. So then after I had been there for a few months in that position, I kind of started to realize, like, okay, you know what? I've always had a clear vision of what I want to do, and I know where I want to get to, and why am I spending this time listening to what other people have to say? Yeah. Why am I taking into consideration what this person thinks my rate should be, how this person thinks it should advertise? Or like I remember when I left that situation, the person that I was working with /for told me, like, you know, she straight up said to me, like, you'll never make it. You'll never make it downtown. You don't have the body type. You don't have the look. And now looking back, I recognize that was her way of trying to control me, to try to keep me there so she could continue making money off of me. Mm-hmm. But I was like, at that point I was ready, and I had the confidence instilled in me, where I was like, you know what? Maybe I don't know what I'm doing. You know what? Maybe I don't. Maybe you're right, and I will fall on my ass and I won't do well. But I have a feeling I'm going to do really well. Yeah. I'm going to trust myself, and I'm going to listen to my gut, and I'm going to do what I think is right. And I've been running with that, and I've been happier in every sense of the way, like every sense of the word. I've just been so happy since I decided to just trust myself and just to try things and go for it. And here I am now. Yeah. Sitting in my lovely in-call on the bed.
Oh man, this is such an incredible story, and I have so many questions already. So, so I guess from what I'm gathering, I guess were you working for an agency before when you first started, or like how? Because it just sounds like there's like a third party or somebody that was also involved with managing your bookings, managing your rates and whatnot. Is that correct?
Well, it's kind of like it's a difficult position, and I don't really, I don't want to upset anyone in the industry either, because I know that this person has, in this situation, has worked for a lot of other girls and has helped a lot of other people. And at the end of the day, I am grateful that that was where I started and not in like a worse position.
Yeah.
But I was essentially I'd never worked for an agency. I've always been an independent escort. But when I began, I was working out of this, I was working with this group basically where they had several in-calls around town and you can kind of bounce around them. And at the end of the day, however you make your own ads, you do your own bookings, you set your own rates.
Okay.
But if you weren't making enough money, like if you weren't making enough money to pay the in-call fees or the fees that they had set up for them, that's when it would get into, okay, well, actually, you need to lower your rates. The reason you're not making any money is your rates are too high. And this was back when I think about it, like back the rates that I was told are too high, that's like nowadays for me, like I'm making twice that easy. But it was an environment where I wasn't being directly controlled. And it was, the way it was presented to me when I first joined is that it's like, oh, it's a woman-run co-op, basically, like a group of us all together, and we're here to support each other. But by the time I left, it was very clear that that was all kind of a ruse, I think. And really, at the end of the day, it was just someone trying to make an exorbitant amount of money off of me. That, looking back, like makes no sense. What was I spending that much money for? Why were they making so much money off of me? For what? I really, to this day, I have no idea what it was for. But so it was just, I was always independent, but like, independent-ish, I guess you could say, at the beginning,
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. Like, I wonder, like, you don't have to, like, obviously share any, like, hard numbers or anything. That's not what I'm asking. But, like, what kind of cuts were they getting from you? Or, like, what kind of things were they cutting off in terms of, like, oh, you're, like, the in-call fees and whatnot? If you can share.
Well, so it was basically $250 a day. And the idea was that if you have a bad day and you don't make that much money, you can always reach out to the person running them and then just leave 30% of whatever you've made.
Oh, wow.
But when you did have a bad day and you would reach out to them, then they would say, all right, well, let me check the logs. Let me check to see how many people you've buzzed up that day. Let me do the math. Let me add up how many times you've opened the door and for how long each client was there for. And the $250 a day, I mean, like, that amount might make sense if these were nice places.
Yeah. Oh, no.
But these were apartments that, like, the rent was, without a doubt, like $1,000 a month, probably, or a bit more. You know, like they weren't particularly well furnished. They weren't particularly high end.
Yeah.
They were just very basic, very, very minimal. No additional safety or protection for me.
Oh my gosh.
And like $250 a day, what, just because you know what I'm doing? You know?
Yeah.
Like it was a little bit
sketchy.
I feel like it was a bit exploitative, I would say.
Definitely exploitative for sure. Because like, what the fuck do they need that for? Like, you know, what's the breakdown? And I'm sure they don't break that down for
That's
you.
when I realized, okay, I should just leave and do this on my own. Because at that time, you know, with the amount that I was working, the amount of days I was booking, you know, I kept a log of everything. I kept a log of all my expenses, and I just added it up at the end of the month. And I was like, holy shit, I could rent a beautiful apartment downtown for the amount of money that I'm spending on these mediocre areas.
For sure.
And, but, you know, I wish all the best to all the girls that are still there and, you know, have no hard feelings, but just it wasn't it for me.
Yeah, but not a fit.
I've always been, you know, before being an independent escort, I've always been an independent woman, and I've always been very driven and ambitious, and I just outgrew the need for that kind of environment.
Yeah, for sure. And also, just an FYI, because we do have a lot of international listeners here as well, like $1,000 in Vancouver is like nothing. It's like, I'm sorry, but where can you find that place?
Well, they weren't like in Vancouver. They were like Coquitlam.
Oh, wow.
And like Burnaby. So I'm sure they were more than 1,000 a month. I'm sure they were like 1,500, but not more than 1,500, you know?
But still.
Which is like, if it's $250 a day, like, honey, you're making that up in a week. So,
so what's
so
up
where's
with that?
the money going? And it was one of those situations where, like, okay, if I'm spending this much, but also like there's improvements coming to the space. Like, I remember when I had first joined, I was told like, oh yeah, for this one of the apartments, we're working on getting a dining room, like a little dining room table, a little dining room set for here. And then like 5 months later, there was no dining room set. And like, what does I'm working on it mean? I'm paying you $250 a day. Like you can buy a nice, you should be able to afford one by now, 5 months later. Hello.
Yeah, you'd think, even with the lead time and like the delivery and everything, even if it was like back ordered, you should be able to get that by then.
Yeah.
Oh God.
To this day, actually, I know that there is no dining room table at that specific apartment. But
oh my gosh. Jeez. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, whatever, like, we all go through, like, challenging experiences and stuff, and that was just kind of, like, how I see it, a stepping stone for you to be catapulted into your independence. So, that is awesome. I want to hear more about, because you said, like, you were independent-ish, so you were still able to, like, set your own rates and stuff. Can you speak a little bit about that in terms of, like, the research going into it, how you were able to come up to that number and stuff? Because I feel a lot of people, and not just in terms of escorting, but in general, sex workers, I feel, kind of struggle a bit with setting your price and kind of knowing your worth. So.
Oh, very much so. I struggle with it to this day. I actually... like 10 minutes ago, right before we started filming this, I just changed my rates on my website. It's definitely a constant struggle, and that's something that I definitely think is a problem in sex work, because for me, the rates that I started at were I would consider them low. But at the time when I was starting them, I'm coming from working a civvy job, so making... a few $100s an hour, all of a sudden, coming from, my last civvy job, I worked at a bank where I was making 20 something an hour. It's like, holy shit, I'm making bank. So that's, I feel like a lot of sex workers experience that when they first start, and then looking back, they're like, oh my God, I was making so little. I was undercharging so much. But so the rates when I first started were largely, I spent a lot of time just looking on different advertising platforms, seeing what other people were charging and offering, and kind of understood that, like, the people that are charging more, they've spent a lot of time building their brands and building their image. So I kind of knew all along, right from the get-go, that starting off, I would have to be probably lower than what I would like to get to, but I have to work my way up. I got to work my way up the ladder. I got to build my reputation.
Yeah.
Got to establish myself. No one is willing to pay that much for someone that they don't trust or is unreputable, right?
Yeah, of course.
So, and then also, like, the rates that I first started at were also dictated by, other people telling me, like, this is what you should charge, or you can't charge more than this, which now I know is a complete lie.
Yeah.
But also something in sex work that I think people don't, maybe people don't notice enough or like don't realize, is the issue of the fact that we as sex workers, the people that we communicate with the most directly are clients, not other sex workers.
Yes.
And so when you're dealing with clients who, there are so many wonderful, amazing, brilliant, respectable, fantastic clients in this world. But for every one of them, there's another 5 dirtbags, right?
Yes.
That's how it goes. And so when you're being bombarded by dirtbags always telling you you're charging too high, and the thing about these guys, it doesn't matter what you're charging. They will always say you're charging too high because they want to undermine you. Yes. They want you to charge less. They want you to be accessible to them. And it's sad. So that was like starting off, I was very kind of dictated more on like, okay, I'm working my way up. I'll start low. That's okay. I'll get to where I want to get. But then I also kind of hit a rut for a while of like, you know, being bombarded with so many people telling me this is what your rates should be. This is how much you should be charging. This is what you're worth. You're not worth more than this.
Right.
And so I kind of I got stuck for quite a while. I got stuck because, you know, when you hear someone telling you this is what your worth is, how long are you supposed to, like, how long can you listen to that without actually believing it?
Yeah.
Right?
It's so true.
So it's taken me a long time to get to where I'm at, and you know, I'm going to keep going. I'm not done. I haven't reached my peak yet, girl. We've got places to go still.
Yeah.
But just kind of learning to value myself beyond what anyone else may think of me.
Mm-hmm.
And so now what my rates are currently is basically it's the amount that if you see me for that amount, for the amount that I'm charging, I'm happy. Mm-hmm. Basically, I've kind of come to a place where I know now what I set my rates at are basically the amount that I need in order to not feel taken advantage of, in order to feel celebrated, and in order to feel valued, like literally, like totally. You're showing me that you value me literally with money, right?
Yeah.
So it also goes into like there's all these other expenses that people and clients don't really think of that come, you know, on behind the scenes, right? There's all our upkeep, our nails, the rent of the apartments that we rent, you know, bed sheets and laundry soap and everything else.
Yeah.
You know, buying nice soap for clients to use at my in-call, like, you know, buddy, that adds up.
Yeah, that definitely does add.
Yeah. So, so that's kind of where I've landed with at my race is what makes me feel happiest. And anything lower than this, I feel like I start to resent people a little bit because I feel like, you know, you're taking advantage of me and my time and my energy.
Yeah.
And so now what my rates are what I feel that I deserve at the minimum, at the least.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love everything that you've said here too. Even down to like what you said too, like all the back end kind of things that make your space beautiful and also make you, that celebrates you, you know, like we don't often speak about that. So I'm really, really glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Like,
totally.
I'm curious to like, see like and hear about your process because it obviously sounds like you've went through some stuff and it took you some time to get where you are. Did you want to speak a little bit about that and like, you know, when you came to that realization that like, you know, maybe like I am worth more?
Mm-hmm. Really for me, I feel like, well, at the end of the day, it's always been kind of a baby step situation of like, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah.
Really slowly kind of building up, ended up, you know, started with like increasing my rates by like $20 at a time, you know, just very slowly kind of working my way up. And a lot of rate basage, I think there's a lot of fear around it. Mm-hmm. So I know I've always felt, and I think everyone always feels a sense of fear when you raise your rates of like, oh no.
Yeah.
What if this is it? What if I'm not worth this much and now suddenly no one will come see me? And then you end up seeing some great clients that love you and pay your new rates and then some. And you're like, oh, maybe I can do this. Oh, you know what? Yeah, I can do this. I can get by like this.
Totally.
And so it's just kind of, my process has been a long one, a slow one. You know, I've had a few different in-calls, a few different apartments that I've rented for work in the past. Mm-hmm. I've had my own issues with in-calls. I've had my own issues with working with other people that, you know, weren't as ambitious as I was or trustworthy or reliable enough, and things have fallen through. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's kind of just knowing that I think my success comes from my belief in myself.
Yeah.
My trust in myself, and knowing that no matter what happens, because I trust myself, I know I can do well. I can get myself out of any situation, and I can flourish, and I can prosper, and I can thrive. And so just working on anytime that I kind of start to lose touch with that feeling of trust within myself and connection with my inner being, just kind of taking some time to kind of recenter and focus that energy and being like, okay, I'm a bad bitch. I got this. Let's make this work. Let's go.
Let's do this. I love that. Like, you have such a great and strong working philosophy. I think that's really, really inspiring. So just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you. Well, part of why I love this industry so much is that you're able to do basically whatever the F you want, right? Yeah. Like, you want to try something, try it out. Why not? Doesn't work? Oh, well, okay, on to the next thing. And so long as you really so long as you know who you are and you don't stray from that, I think, you can do well and you can prosper and you can thrive.
Yeah.
And also, this industry is so fun. Part of the reason it's so wonderful is you actually see a return on investment in terms of how much you put into it. Both money, but also like energy and time and branding and everything. It's, when you're working a 9 to 5, try as hard as you might. If you don't have a boss that wants to promote you, you're not going to get promoted and you're not going to get a raise. Yes. They're just going to then suddenly expect you to always perform at that level without actually changing your compensation in any way. Yeah. Where in this industry, everything that I put into it, I see that return. Like I directly see it. It comes straight to me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Let's talk about like your website and your marketing strategies, just because like I love your website. I told you this off air, but it is probably the best. It is definitely the best escort website I've ever seen. Like,
oh, I'm like so flattered. Thank you so much.
Your branding, the imagery, even like your tone of voice. Like, I feel like I know you by reading your copy. Like, I know your personality. I think it really, really comes through.
Thank you so much. I am a writer, so I do have that going for me, outside of sex work. But for me, my branding and my website, I really like, everyone kind of has their own things that work for them. And when I first joined this industry, I had a few people say to me that, when they're discussing branding and ad copy, I had a few people say to me, like, who is Yana? Who do you want Yana to be? You want her to be a persona that you feel comfortable spending a lot of time in, and that's what you want to brand and market to. And this was before I had started the industry, but I kind of joined, actually started in my job, and I spent some time thinking about it, and I was like, well, I want to be myself. There is no character that I feel comfortable portraying for large portions of my life that wouldn't be draining to me. I want to be myself. So my branding and my aesthetic and my website was definitely like, came from the heart. It's me, it's my baby, I made it. And, I tried to really focus on, portraying the most authentic version of myself that I can, because I really feel like in this industry, branding, at the end of the day, branding is your tool to attract the right clients to you.
Yes.
And so I want my branding to be me so that I attract people that like me, right? That want to see me because they appreciate who I am. They appreciate my voice. They appreciate what I stand for. So that's really what I kind of tried to carry through to in my website. And then also I just have a good aesthetic. I have good taste. Sorry,
yeah, you do.
I have a good taste. I know what looks good, so I just made it look good too.
It's so good, and it just translates beautifully, and I think it's awesome. Even like when it comes to your offerings too, the way that you've branded that and described that. Like, I'll just kind of read it a little bit. So you offer 3 different things, four, I guess. So the Sweet Escape, Wine and Dine. We have duos, and even have your COVID buyout. Like, this is amazing. Like, how did you come up with that? I mean, they to me sound like different experiences.
Well, they are, and that's part of why they're kind of branded separately and differently, because they're all different. The way I kind of came into it was, honestly, at the end of the day, it was just trial and error. It was just trying things out and realizing what works best for me. The sweet escape for me has always been, I feel like that's the most common. That's the most like what anyone that's kind of curious and wants to try something out but isn't yet sure what to do.
Yeah.
They just want a little something. They want a little sweet escape. They want an escape from life. They want to escape from their job. They want to escape from stress, whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, come, let's have a little escape, you and I together. And then the wine and dine is more like for the people that, they've tried it out and they know their taste now. They know they're into it. they're ready for the next step. And then that's more of like, all right, well, let's explore and get to know each other more intimately and have some fun, outside of the bedroom as well. Let's go explore. Let's go to dinner. Take me to your favorite place. Let's check out the menu. Mm-hmm. And then my others, which includes like my duos and kink and other services, that's kind of, for someone that's looking for something a little bit outside of the box, someone that wants to try something new and different that they've never tried before, be it a duo, a threesome, mm-hmm. or, something a little bit more kinky. I kind of feel like with my GFE approach, I tried to make it clear that like I am by no means a professional dom, but if you're someone that would like to explore something and try something out, I would love to explore it with you.
Yeah. I love that.
And then my COVID buyouts, that kind of just appeared, kind of had to as a result of COVID, of trying to figure out how am I going to work in a way that's safe for me and others. I'm an immunocompromised individual, so for me, my health and safety has always come first and foremost, and during the pandemic even more so.
Yeah.
But so that was just something I started offering because I know some people, they want to continue having fun, they want to continue enjoying their lives, but they're also responsible people who have disposable income and want to do what they can. Right? Yeah. So that's where all of those originated from, I think.
Yeah.
That covers it, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. More than covers it. It's great. Questions again. I have so many questions with everything. I guess like maybe we'll start backwards and talk with COVID in terms of like how you've had to pivot your business with COVID, because that obviously fucked everything up.
So much so.
Yeah.
So COVID, of course, our whole industry was hit very, very, very strongly.
Yes.
Of course, we all know at this point. But so when it first hit, there was definitely like a month or two of just pure panic, just pure chaos, pure sheer, what the hell are we all going to do? How are we going to survive this? I kind of had a night of, recentering myself and grounding myself and remembering like this is the oldest profession in the world. I will get by. I will survive. I will thrive and I will prosper again. Things are hard right now, but it's okay. We'll get through it.
Yeah.
But definitely my actual offerings and the way that I worked had to change a lot because suddenly I really had to more so prioritize and focus on existing relationships rather than, advertising for new clients.
Oh,
really kind of me personally, I kind of pared down my list of people that I see. And of course, even the people that I used to see very regularly, there's a few of them that I continue seeing through the pandemic, but of course it was at a much lower, much reduced rate.
Yeah.
Not reduced rate like financially, but like less frequently. So less frequency. And so just really kind of focusing on the people that care and that are responsible as well, and focusing a lot more on longer dates, kind of spending more time together. And I also think it ended up working out because a lot of people were, of course, as soon as the pandemic hit, suddenly a lot more lonely and not able to go out and enjoy their life as much. So, kind of prioritizing, okay, well, I can go see my favorite girl and then just spend a little bit of extra time with her. Kind of worked out well for all of us.
Yeah, totally. Oh my gosh. COVID has been a really interesting time, but I think it really, made us realize that we are all resilient and there are ways to kind of repackage and reinvent yourself and move forward, because I mean the world doesn't stop spinning, right? So we just you just got to keep going. I also want to talk to you about duos too, because we haven't really talked about duos a lot in the show at all. So do you want to speak a little bit about that and like working with others and how you form those connections, and like how do you work with other people? How do you think?
Yeah, well, duos obviously in the times of COVID are quite different from back in the day, how they used to be. For the longest time, like I did very few duos last year. Like I kind of, most people kind of stopped offering them for a while.
Yeah.
A lot of people still don't offer them. But in general, the way that I have gone about duos, the way that I do duos nowadays, which duos just means like having two escorts that you're seeing. So basically a threesome, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so the duos that I've been doing, the way you've kind of formed those relationships is like they're just friends. I don't know. I've always, I think I feel like I know a decent amount of fellow workers here in Vancouver,
Mm-hmm.
and quite a few of them have mentioned to me, they're like, "How do you know all these people? How do you meet all these people?" And it's literally like, I just put myself on the line, guys. I bounce into people's Twitter's DMs. I say, "Hey, what's up? You seem cool. Do you want to hang out?" And then if they say no, I say, "Okay, sounds good." I can live with rejection. I'm fine with that. I love myself. I know who I am. I know what I'm about.
Yeah.
But so really it's kind of just meeting people, testing the waters out. Some people you end up becoming really good friends with, other people not so much.
Yeah.
But it's not different from as a client finding an escort that you click with. It's the same thing for duos. Like you just meet people and then you go, "Oh, you know what? You and I get along well together. Yeah, we should do this. Like this would be fun." Yeah, that's basically it. Just finding people that you vibe with well, whose energy you match. And before ever starting this industry, I used to kind of be weirded out by the idea of having sex with my friends.
Yeah.
But now it's like perfectly normal. We have sex sometimes. It's great. It's fun for all of us.
It's encouraged. And I like that approach too. Like it's like you're just like hanging out with friends, and we're just like whatever, cold call, send a DM, slide into the DMs on Twitter or whatever. It's the same way that I like find my podcast guests. Slide into the DMs. I'm like, "Hey, do you want to be on my show?"
Yeah, you just gotta be confident enough that rejection doesn't hurt you and that it's okay. But what do you have to lose?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if someone says no, or you meet someone and you don't get along, you don't hit it off. Okay, that's it. Moving on. Now continue on with your life, and eventually you do find people that you do click with very well, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a really, really great way of looking at it. I also wanted to talk to you about boundaries. In terms of like, well, yes, we know what we offer, but like, what are your boundaries? How do you enforce that? How do you deal with clients that, want to try something new or something that you're not comfortable with? How do you approach those conversations?
Well, at the end of the day, I feel like in sex work, people often talk about boundaries, but what people don't talk about enough about is consent.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So someone pushing a boundary isn't someone pushing a boundary. That's someone not listening to your consent. That's someone that's violating your consent.
Yes.
And I don't see those people. Or if I do see them and they push my boundaries, they violate my consent, I say, "Okay, that's it. We're not continuing this."
Mm-hmm.
Because just because I'm an escort doesn't mean that my consent is any less important than anyone else's.
Mm-hmm.
Boundaries, very much so. You need good communication. If someone doesn't communicate before doing something, hello, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You need to communicate. You need to discuss expectations. And at the end of the day, also, like, a lot of clients, I think, as an escort, people often message, every escort knows this, people always message and say, like, "Do you offer this and this and this and this specific sexual service?" And at the end of the day, bro, I don't know. I don't know you. I don't know if I'll feel comfortable doing that with you. Right now you're just a random number who hasn't even introduced himself in my inbox. I don't know if I want to do these activities with you. And that's definitely something that I found as I kind of rebranded and continued upping my brand, working towards what I wanted to. I started receiving less and less of those kind of inquiries because people will, it's similar to like when I was saying, like people saying, you're not worth this much. You need to charge less and less for this service. Well, those are the exact same kind of people that they're looking to get your service for as low as possible. And they're thinking of it as your service. They're thinking of it as, essentially using you like a sex doll.
Right.
When I'm not. Part of why I do a GFE is I am not a sex doll. I am a human being that's here to hang out with you, have fun, have some crazy good sex. But I'm not going to promise anything for you until I know you, until I've met you. And I feel like anyone that expects you to, that's a little bit of a red flag to me right off the bat. If someone inquires with you and asks you for this and that service and they want this specifically, like just the fact that you don't even, like clearly from you asking this, you don't really understand what consent is. And you don't really get what good sex is either, what fun sex is either. And I'd love to show you, but like, you need to grow up a little bit more before I ever feel comfortable seeing you.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Because, I mean, as you market yourself and as you've kind of rebranded stuff, you branded yourself, you're like, by doing that, you are not marketing yourself to those types of people. So it's like already weeding those types of peeps out, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, like going along with this conversation, can we talk about your screening process and like security?
Sure. Yeah.
What's happening with that?
So, everyone in the industry has their own screening practices. And I've always felt like right off the bat, the clearest, easiest screening is just asking or providing, like saying, like, for example, when I advertise in my ads, I say, contact me with the following. All I ask for is your name, age, a brief description, when you'd like to meet, and for how long.
Right.
And just based on someone's ability to provide that information, right off the bat, you get a lot of, you know what kind of person they are,
Yeah.
So that's kind of starting off how I always... That's the base level screening. Like, can you follow simple direction?
Yeah.
Can you answer simple questions? Yes or no? Then going off of that, I personally do not ask for ID. I know a lot of other people that do. Some people ask for ID. I ask for ID if I'm doing an out call to a residential address. Okay. Then I ask for ID with the address matching on the ID, or, for personal safety.
Yeah.
But otherwise what I do is I always make sure that I have access to a few different blacklists, which are just lists of bad clients to not see. So I run their contact info through the blacklist that I'm a part of to see if anything comes up. If someone is texting me, I always make sure that it is a real phone number, not just a burner app number, because burner app numbers are really easy to buy and just switch and pretend you're someone else, right?
Yes.
And then always taking a deposit as well. And that idea is like, listen, clearly you can see how much time and energy and money I've put into becoming who I am today and the professional that I am and building the rapport and, becoming an established provider. I've put in a lot of time into this. So the least you can do is send me $50 at least, right? Like, just to show me that you are also legit. So that's kind of what I do. And a lot of it is very, very much so based on gut feeling at the end of the day.
Yeah, I hear that
I've had a few bad calls, and every single one of the bad calls has been with someone that I had a bad gut feeling, but then I rationalized it and I told myself, no, he didn't actually say anything bad. He didn't actually do anything bad right out the gate. So I guess I'll see him. And then it ends up being not good.
Oh, no.
But, whatever. You live and you learn. But it's very much so, like, you have to trust your gut. And
sure.
I feel like I've gotten really, really good at learning a lot about someone just based off of 3 texts back and forth.
Really? Wow, okay. There's a lot there. Are you comfortable sharing some of your bad, like, in-calls and out-calls that you've had?
Well, I've never had a bad out call,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, I've been raped before.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Well, it's one of those things like a lot of us have,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
A lot of us have. And for me, it's something like rape isn't something that was new to me when I joined this industry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's something that I've lived with and experienced well before.
Yeah.
And yeah, it fucking sucks. And there's not much to say beyond that. Yeah, it fucking sucks.
Yeah, it fucking sucks. I
But
am so
you
sorry.
find ways to cope. One of my favorite things about this industry is the community and
Yes.
the resources and the support that you receive from others within it.
Mm-hmm.
And so anytime I've had anything bad, creepy, weird happen to me, I've always had, you know, such a wide, huge net of people behind me that are there to support me and to ensure my health and safety and to help me get back on my feet. And we're all there for each other and we all support each other in the same ways.
Yeah, I love that you said that just because it's so true. And unfortunately, your experience isn't, and I say I say this in the nicest way possible, but unfortunately, it's not new, and it happens to so many of us. Whether you are an escort, whether you are a stripper, whether you provide some other service, you know, like that's always like a risk. That risk is not the right word because I don't want to do any victim blaming at all, but it's just like, especially in that line of work, it's very, very vulnerable, and you are placed in a very vulnerable position.
Yeah, but
right?
At the end of the day, I mean, when you're talking about risk, we experience risk as women, just exist just in our day-to-day lives. We're always at risk of sexual violence. And we just happen to be in a position working in an industry where predatory men just think that we are. For them, it's just like easy bait,
right? Yeah,
you know, like it's even easier, like because they think, oh well, you know, this isn't just a woman on the street. This is a woman, you know, that I'm paying for her time with, so I can do whatever the fuck I want to her. I own her for this period of time.
Right, yeah. And that sense of entitlement is dangerous.
Of course. And it's there. And, you know, I don't think we should downplay it. I'm sure, you know, maybe there's some people that have never had any kind of risky situations happen to them before. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, like I said, rape isn't something that was new to me when I entered this industry. Like I'm a woman. I see sexual assault around me and the women around me every single day, inside and outside of the industry. Being in this industry doesn't take it away. It's impossible to take away. How can you when the way predators exist, and by existing they learn to find ways to navigate around boundaries and around screening and around, you know, around laws, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yana, thank you so much for sharing that. Like, that is incredibly intimate information you just share. And I'm sure someone listening, and there are a lot of listeners too, I feel, that have experienced assault in some kind of way, if not sexual assault. So thank you for that. I really do appreciate that, because sometimes people just think that sex work is this glamorous thing, and sometimes people are just so blinded by the glamorization of it, and we forget to talk about the ugly side of things sometimes. So I'm really glad we were able to have a discussion on this point.
Yeah, it's one of those things that of course, sex work is glamorous. It's a lot of fun. It's glamorous, but you're still existing as a woman in a vulnerable position, and there will always be people that will try to take advantage of that and will try to take advantage of you.
Of course.
In any industry you work in, sex industry or not.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I don't even know what I stopped keeping track of the statistics because they're so abysmal and so upsetting, but everyone knows a woman that has been assaulted.
Yes.
Everyone. we are all around. So every woman has experienced assault, I feel like, in some manner in her life, because that is sadly the world that we live in.
Yeah, that is our reality, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I feel like we got to talk about it more, because it's so, I feel like it can be so isolating, and the trauma of it is just so, it's so overwhelming and it's so upsetting. And the fact that it's not really talked about is even worse, because then you feel like, oh fuck, I'm the only one feeling this, I'm the only one going through this. Little do you know, so many people around you are dealing with the same grief.
100%. And like, again, like by having conversations like this, we'll normalize this type of conversation, because it is something that happens and we need to acknowledge it to move forward. Totally. Right? So I guess with that, we can move into some Q&A.
Okay, sure.
There's a bunch of questions that came in, but let me ask my question, because I didn't even get to talk about this yet. But okay, so what is a big difference in terms of like what you offered in the beginning of when you first started escorting and what you offer now? And yeah, I guess like, were there any mistakes that you would never repeat again?
When I entered the industry, I was definitely, my offerings were a lot more focused on what I thought other people wanted and not what I actually had to offer. So I think when I first started, it was a lot more services based, a lot more trying to appeal to the mass market. And now what's changed is fuck that. I'm not trying to appeal to anyone. I am me. And if you are attracted to me and the vibe is right, let's get together. Let's have fun. And, you know, we'll go from there. We'll see how it goes. But I think what I would definitely advise to anyone entering this industry, or if I could advise, you know, younger me, you know, little baby hooker version of me, I would definitely tell myself that trust yourself and don't try to change yourself in any way that someone else tells you to. Don't change yourself because someone else thinks you should. Do what you think is right and stick true to your gut. And that's really what the most has changed for me in my branding and my offerings. Is now what I offer is what I enjoy, which is getting to know someone and having fun, and you know, inside and outside of the bedroom.
How does she navigate duos, since it's illegally soldiered as selling sex as a third party? I'm not sure about that question.
It isn't.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that question.
I think that question is thinking of it more like in terms of me kind of being madam-esque. And I have my girls that I bring into it.
Yeah, it's not,
but
though.
Really how I navigate duos is we're two independent girls. We get together, we agree upon a rate, we always match, we leave with the same amount.
Yeah.
And we just agree to, let's the two of us get together, make some money, have a fun threesome. And oh my God, duos are the most fun. I love duos. As a bi woman, girls, so hot. So like, yes, please give me the opportunity to fuck more women. Like I really want that in my life. But also, it's literally just, we're both independent workers. We're agreeing to a rate. We're agreeing to our restrictions. Neither of us do anything we don't want to do. And we leave with money and have a fun time. That's it.
That sounds great.
What?
Yes, please. I guess on that note, if you're bi, do you ever receive any female clients?
Oh my gosh, I haven't yet.
Yes.
And I'm waiting. I feel like that's one thing I gotta change my branding. I gotta figure something out. Women, come to me, please. I love women. I do have like a fair number of clients that are couples.
Okay.
And those are always my favorite because I can usually just focus entirely on the woman. And the man is equally happy. You know, what's he gonna complain? What?
Yeah. No.
But women clients are definitely like a rare breed in this industry. There's a few girls that, you know, will say like, I've had one or two in all the years I've worked. Like, they're around somewhere, I'm sure. Yeah. Hopefully I'll find some. I'll dig some up, hopefully.
Yeah, anyone listening, hello, because I know that some clients definitely listen to the show and have.
Yes, hi, come book me, please. I love to book girls, yay.
Yeah, this show has been able to connect like my guests with clients. So anyone listening, please check out Yana's website. We'll plug it at the end of the show. This one is, do you exclude any services during COVID? I guess this person has excluded kissing as a part of her services during COVID. So she's wondering if you are doing anything like that as well.
At the beginning of COVID, I fully cut out all fluid exchange, no kissing, nothing, nada. Now I've opened back up to kissing, but I haven't really been seeing new clients. I've only been seeing mostly my regulars, who are people that I know and I trust. And any new clients that I do see are well vetted. I don't see anyone that's engaging in any kind of risky behavior. So I've kind of opened it back up now a little bit, but still doing my screening in terms of making sure, they've been COVID safe and responsible, and then we can see how it goes.
Yeah, then we can talk. Have you had any clients get upset over something that you don't offer? I know we briefly went over that. If you want to say something else on that note, you can.
Oh my gosh, all the time. So many people, why don't you do this? I want this, I want that. And at the end of the day, listen, you're acting like a little toddler that didn't get his toy in Walmart, and that's not what I offer. That's not what I'm here for. Yeah. If you're looking for a specific service, find a provider that provides that specific service and explicitly says it. But also, I kind of feel like, we've touched on this and we discussed this, but like my branding, I'm not a sex doll. I'm not here to provide services. I'm here for that connection, for us to enjoy sex. And I feel like at the end of the day, it's kind of sad. I feel like that so many people haven't actually experienced great sex in their lives. Yeah. Because great sex is not about who goes down on who, what positions do we go into. Great sex is, oh my God, we're having so much fun. Let's just keep going and see and do what feels right, do what feels good, do what makes our bodies feel good, relax, enjoy. And frankly, I'm just not interested in seeing anyone that doesn't have that same idea when it comes to sex.
Yeah, well said. And I know we went over this a little bit too, but what steps have you taken with the pandemic in regards to your business?
Definitely, thorough screening for any new clients and regulars as well. Reducing the amount of new people that I'm seeing in general, reducing the amount of appointments I see ever. I usually, I don't see more than 2 people a week right now. For a while I was reducing, no saliva exchange or anything like that. Also just general kind of other upkeep, in my in-call, I sanitize everything. I clean so much laundry, just being extra vigilant on keeping up on making sure that everything is spick and span. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, lots of great tips there too, in case anyone else is listening. So take note. And I guess the last question here is, do you cam? And I guess this is coming from the angle in terms of have you had to pivot in other forms of sex work while the pandemic was happening?
Of course. Yeah. That's a very valid question. And anyone that's in this industry knows that come pandemic, so many people suddenly switched and transitioned into online work.
Yes.
I never cammed. I never did OnlyFans. I didn't really do that. At the beginning of the pandemic, I did, kind of in the panic when everyone was like, oh, what are we going to do? How are we going to survive? Yeah. I started to offer a few different online options. And I did that for a couple of months. But at the end of the day, it's just not me. Yeah. I fully respect it. And it's amazing for performers, people that can perform in that way. But part of the reason that I entered this industry and the reason that I love this industry is I like to do things that make me feel good. And I never really could never fully get into online work because it just didn't feel right. I wasn't having fun. I missed I love sex. Like, I love sex. Like, I don't like sexual acts. I don't like, it's not that, sexual services, the idea of sex, performing sex. I like the actual act of it. Mm-hmm. So for me, I found for my business and for my, not just my business, but honestly, like my physical and my mental health and well-being, mm-hmm. Online work just wasn't for me. So I decided that for me, what would be best and safest would be to just reduce the number of people that I see and kind of really focus on nurturing and growing those relationships.
Yeah.
And that's what's been good for me. Yeah.
I love how true to yourself you have been throughout this entire pandemic and this entire
It's been hard. It's been tough.
Yeah. But again, the resilience is really admirable. So that's super cool. And you've just stayed so true to yourself and on brand and everything. And I think that is like, it's just so key to your success.
Yes, I would agree. Yeah, staying true to yourself is very important because at the end of the day, I'm sure I could have made a lot of money if I did things differently, but at the end of the day, I just want to be happy. Mm-hmm. I want to live a life that I feel celebrated and excited about, and I don't want to do anything that doesn't fit into that.
Yeah. Of course. That's so important because, again, as I said earlier, there's just a lot of people that just, maybe are just not there and they're not authentically themselves yet. They don't know how to value themselves. They don't know what their value is. They don't know who they are. And that's okay. It's just, you're going to have to come to that point. And when you get to that point, it's just going to be like, oh my God, light bulb went off. What am I doing? Mm-hmm. But I guess totally. With that being said, that brings us to the end of the episode. But before I let you go, where can we find you?
So my website is yanapetrova.com, YANAPETROVA.com. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, but I'm way more active on Twitter, guys. Like I just have an Instagram to link to my Twitter. And my handle is at Yana Petrov with 2 V's. That's YANAPETROVV.
Awesome. And I'll be sure to plug those links, all your handles and everything in the show notes. If you haven't already checked it out, be sure to check it out. And it's me on Instagram, so Strip by Sia, or my personal Sia Steph. And it's new episode. I cannot talk anymore. I've been in meetings for so long. It's God damn it. It's new episodes every single Sunday on wherever you get your podcast. I'm literally everywhere. And don't forget to like, rate, share, and subscribe. Maybe write me a nice little review. And we'll catch everyone in for another episode next Sunday. Thanks, Yana.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
You're listening to Strip by Sia, hosted, produced, and edited by Steph Sia, artwork by Maria Bellandarama, music by Ted D, and photography by Ian Davern.